Welcome to this tutorial for the Science Untangled Volleyball Setters Analysis app. You can see at the top of the screen the URL if you want to check it out with the contact details to Ben Raymond, the developer of the app. Email address also right here. And today I want to go through the basic functions and perhaps some of the advanced functions so that you get a really good idea of how this app works and how it can help you and your team. So to begin with, the quality of any data analysis is dependent on the data that you put in, and so we're going to look at that part first. The app works on data volley files. I use data volley 2007, but obviously it'll work just as well with DV4. And the important things in the data that you put into the Volleyball Setters Analysis app, there are three levels of analysis that you can do. The most basic that everybody will do is based on the side-out phase, the quality of the reception, etc. So you need to have, in the first instance, the serving type, the quality of the reception. It doesn't matter what standard or convention that you use, obviously, as long as it's consistent through your whole data set. And the setter's contact with the setter call and the direction. So those are the three basic pieces of information that you need for the first level of analysis. For the second level of analysis, we include the serve direction, can be either the server or the reception, and the setter position. You can use the basic data volley zones through 3A, 3B, 3C, etc. Or, and this is the recommended way, is to use the animation tool to put the exact setter position in. That will give you the best results and the most interesting output. The third level of analysis is including transition, and for that, the recommended way is to use the same quality codes as reception. So a plus after defense, a minus after defense, and also for free ball. So for example, perfect free ball reception. And that will let you have the best quality output from the transition phase as well as the side out phase. So we have a look at the app. We have the example data set here. Once you have your data volley files and contact Ben at this address, then we will set up a Dropbox system where you can add and subtract files as and when you want. You have your own data set. We'll use one of the example data sets that lets you check things out on your own. So it's the Plus Liga 2017-18, 2 seasons ago, 1 season ago. We can choose any of the teams here. Remember, we're looking at mostly individual setters. We'll check out Yashemsky Vengel. We have 2 setters to choose from. Lucas Camper was the #1 setter. So that's our choosing from among the data set. Next, we have our basic set of options. Take the setter position from. This is where we entered the setter position. We used coordinates rather than zones. The receiver position, we don't normally record with such detail, so we take the receiver position from zones. The heat map by, this is how we see the heat map, because in this app everything is shown visually. The attacker coordinates gives you points like this, but if you use attacker zone, then we get something that looks a little bit like the data volley output, but obviously with color coding. The higher or the stronger the color blue, the darker the blue, the more the greater the distribution is there. And I've just made a little mistake in my eagerness to show you what's going on. And the lighter the blue means the smaller the distribution. So we have straight away a really good visual representation of what we want to see. What we see with the heat map, we can be the percentage of sets, which is the distribution. We can see the kill percentage, so the most effective area of attack, and the rally win rate, which is the extended rally after the first attack. So we can see we have three different heat maps from the same information there. So we'll use percentage of sets because that's the thing that we're most obviously interested in. And we have good data collection from the set, so we'll use the distribution from the sets. So right away, this is our very first level of information, which is all of the attacks in there's two matches in this database, 152 attacks, and we can see what we can see. So we go to our first level of filter, which gives us the next level of analysis, the first level that we talked about. So the most basic one that everybody will do is the reception phase, reception or transition, whether it's breakpoint or side out. In this case, reception can only be side out phase, so we don't need to be concerned with that. We choose perfect and good reception. The set number, we can choose any or all of the sets, the first and the third, just the first. If you leave it blank, we have all sets. We can choose the score, which is the higher of the two scores. We can look at the results just after 20, for example, or we can do after 20 when the score is close. So this is the score differential, plus minus. Obviously, every time we use a filter, the sample size becomes smaller, so the information is perhaps less valuable, but that doesn't mean we can't look for it. We're just going to look at the basic information for now. We can choose among serve types. Serve type is we record as Q, and all other serve types M, T, H. So if you're coding hybrid serves, you want to think about how you code that, because a topspin T serve, for example, would come out under here. We have also the serve run position, which is a series of serves. If a team doesn't side out the first time, how they react on the first, second, and third side out attempts. We'll again leave that one blank there. Setter calls. Obviously, this is the direction of the first tempo run. I have here in my data set simple calls. If you use other setter calls in your data collection, then they will come up in this drop-down list. The rotation, this is our team's rotation, or Lucas Kemper's rotation in this case. So we can choose setter in position 1, setter in position 6, setter in position 4, and so on and so on. We'll leave it as it is for now. We can choose particular players on the court and particular combinations of players. So only with these two players on the court, and in the data set that we had, these two players were never on the court together. So we'll get rid of those. We can also look at what the tendency of the setter is after any of these game situations: substitution, timeout, technical timeouts. The app automatically chooses 8 and 16 as the technical timeouts. We can look at different opponents, and we see that our data set doesn't have that opponent, so we'll leave it there with all teams. And the opposition rotation, which is something that we won't look at today. So that's our basic information. I think we've lost something here. We need to go back to attacker zone. So there we have our basic perfect and positive reception situation that we've used in the first set of data filters. Now we can go on to the second level of filter, and here we have basically the same things that we had up there, but now we can combine different filters, different questions. So if we want to show our setter or the setter position, now we have in one display the 6 different rotations. So we can, again, we have the visual representation of how that works out. We can do, as I said, all of the ones that we have here. We can break down perfect and positive reception, see what the differences are there. We can look at the simple ones here, the serve run position that we talked about. So the first attempt, second attempt, third attempt, and so on. And we can combine those things as well. So we can do serve run position and pass quality, and each time we add a different level of filter, we have more courts and more heat maps. We can, once we get really, really deep down, we end up with a lot of courts that aren't very easy to read perhaps, but that's the level that we can go down to. One other one that's interesting that you can't at least easily get in data volley is the setter against the opponent's rotation. So to see how a setter, for example, attacks an opposing team setter, we can see that one here. So that's the first level of analysis that we talked about in the data collection area. We go to the second level of analysis, which is the setter position. So we have our basic court, reception phase, perfect and positive, not broken down by reception. And now we can choose the setter position. So we use this with a click and drag. So we've defined the setter position, that is the position of the setter at the contact. And we can see at different parts of the court how the rotation, the setter distribution changes from position 4. Remembering that we've chosen positive and only positive and perfect reception. If we expand that to include also good or exclamation reception, then we have a different data set straight away. So it's the most common. We can also, I'll do separately to begin, we can also choose the reception position, remembering that we have chosen to take the receiver position from zones. So we have a big area and receiver from position from area 7, and we can do multiple zones from the middle of the court. From position 1 is one that we will often look at. We can make the zones bigger as well. And also we can combine the setter position and the receiver position. So the middle and left side of the court and the setter moving backwards, and we can see what he does there. So there we have our first and second level. The third level with transition is basically works the same way. We want to clear our setter and receiver positions. go back to our heat map by zone. And now we have our transition attack on good and positive first contacts. So that's the really fast version of how the app works. On the right, we have some tables that you can break down some of the information in statistical form rather than in visual form. But that's an extra way to look at the data. So I hope you've enjoyed and most importantly followed this tutorial. Remember the Volley Set app, the URL here at the top. Contact Ben Raymond at volley@untan.gl and check it out for yourself. I can tell you that I use it every day and highly recommend it. And hopefully we'll meet each other again. Perhaps we'll check out the volleyball reporting app next time. So have a good one.